All right, welcome. Happy Friday. It is November the 5th, where I am in the world. And welcome to Three Questions to Better Business. I'm really excited about today's interview. Not that I haven't been excited about the others, but for the first time in my life, I'm interviewing a real life Olympian. Now, I don't mean that in just some kind of metaphorical phase. David Karasek is a 2012 Olympian representing Switzerland in the 2012 London Olympics. Today, he is a peak performance coach. He's a trained psychologist. He works with athletes and business owners to create a positive mindset to get them to achieve greatness. He's also the founder of the Tribe of Athletes. David Karasek, it is so good to have you with us today.
Hey, Michael, great to be here. Thanks for the intro.
Now, you were just telling me over in Switzerland, it's getting cold, and where I am in the States, it's starting to get cold too. But there's something you and your buddies still do in this weather. What is that?
Yeah, we signed up for it's called the Coupe de Noël. That means like the Christmas Cup.
Yeah.
And it's in Geneva just before Christmas, and you have to swim 125 meters in the water, which is going to be, I don't even know in Fahrenheit, but it's going to be very, very cold. And we're kind of practicing now, right? Because otherwise I'm like afraid something is going to happen if you don't practice it.
You and I were talking before that one of the challenges with being a guy, competitive guy, group of guys, is that nobody wants to be the first one to say, oh, it's too cold, I can't do it. So you got to suffer through it.
The peer pressure, it's real, but it works. It does work.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into the three questions. Let's with what you do to help people, and that is, what's the biggest mindset challenge that you are helping people with today?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's all about being yourself, right? And when you think of athletes, and we know that from the world's best athletes, but we can also appreciate that from our everyday situations as a parent, as a husband, wife, as a brother, as somewhere at work. It's like we are the best version of ourselves when we're in the present moment, right? And when you think about peak performance with the athletes, when they're overthinking, when they're doubting themselves, when the confidence is not what it's supposed to be, it's all because the mind is either in the past or it's in the future, but it's not in the present moment. And so, time is an interesting construct in to begin with, because it is a construct. It's an illusion. Spiritually speaking, there's only the present moment, but the mind, extrapolates in the future and the past. And so I think the biggest challenge is to be in the present moment, because can you also appreciate that when you're present, when we're here, not thinking about later, we're the best version of ourselves, right?
Oh, yeah. So as an athlete, I want to see if I've got what you just said correctly. An athlete, you jump in the pool, you're in the Olympics. If you're projecting into the future, you're thinking about the medal rather than the next stroke. And a sales professional is thinking about, how am I going to spend the commission check when they haven't even made the sale?
That's right. That's right.
So it is staying in the moment, which seems to have gotten more and more difficult in a world where technology is constantly grabbing at our attention.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. And I'm also, the phone, it's real. I got to put it away. Otherwise, when it's there, I feel that pull to, checking again and again. And it's real. So, but we have to, that's why it's so important to develop whatever strategy works for you, but then, go ahead and implement these things, because, it's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all about being present in the moment. And I know that's somewhat of a cliche. So give us one or two tips. How can I stay more focused in the present moment?
Yeah, look, so for example, we all have some kind of limiting beliefs, right? Like that we're not worthy, or that we're not good enough, or trust, or that we don't belong, or we need to be perfect. Everybody has some kind of limiting beliefs. And when you think about it, there's some limiting beliefs that are very based on the past. They are past oriented. For example, worth, right? Something happened to you in childhood, and it probably happened again and again in a pattern where, you didn't feel worthy, and you came up with a strategy, and you became afraid of rejection, basically, right? So you're holding on to something from the past that's not serving you. Now, you could rationalize and say, well, the past is the past. It makes no sense to hold on to that, right? So if we can get the client to see that, good. But then there's other beliefs, and I resonate very strongly with that one, for example, is I'm not good enough, right? And the pattern, how you compensate for that is like the high achiever, taking course after course, never feeling good enough, training more and more, and never, is it like the donkey with the carrot in front?
Yeah.
And there's some excuse for these guys because you can say, well, I'm future oriented and it's still to come, right? But it's the effect is the same. You're not present because the people, and that includes me, who have the belief I'm not good enough, they hate the present moment. We hate the present moment because, like, I'll give you an example. When I was working in a bank, I was selling structured products to these high-level executives, like, alpha type of guy, red types. And when I started presenting, they're like, yeah, get me to the end.
Yeah.
But I knew if I'm not presenting the product, they're not going to understand and they're not going to buy. But for them to be in the moment where I wanted to give them the full picture, that meant for them that they don't have the full picture and they don't feel very valid at that point. So they want to go, get me to the point where I will feel complete. You see?
Yeah.
So people that don't have the I'm not good enough or have the I'm not good enough, they're constantly in the future, and that's just as bad.
And I love that example because as a sales professional, my job is to help that person get back into the present moment. And that takes some self-worth too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if you've got competing low self-worths going at it, you're not going to have a good outcome.
That's right.
Now, I do have a question for you along this topic based on a brief conversation we had before we went live. You have competed against the legendary Michael Phelps. And you talked about diving into the pool and within a few seconds, all you could see was his legs. How do you push through that when you're like, okay, this guy's so good? How do you keep motivated in a moment like that?
I didn't.
Okay.
It sucked. Fair enough. I'm telling you. I had in that competition, like, this is actually kind of a sad story. Low point of my life was 1 month before the Olympics in Paris, and Michael Phelps was next to me. And it's not just that race that I swam slow. I had other races when Phelps wasn't there, and I was so slow, like so painfully slow that my dad was telling my mom, I'm not coming to the Olympics. Like, I'm done. Right? That's what my dad said. And imagine, yeah. And then.
A question for you. In that case, even though you weren't racing him in future heats, you were living in the past, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh, I was so overthinking it. And then the worst is you have one of the slowest races of your career, and it hurts the most, right? Because when you're having a good performance, you're having fun. Maybe you don't even remember it that much. But it's actually the pain comes when you're not in the moment. Yeah.
And you've learned from that well beyond 2012. And now you know how to handle those moments much better.
Yes. Took me a few years of some detours and a lot of,
Well, as a speaker coach, I teach people frequently, look, your audience wants to hear about where you struggled, your struggles, your setbacks, your scars. And what did you learn from it? What new process did you pick up so you can succeed in the future? When in a whole different venue or a whole different industry or world, you're going to face another Michael Phelps. How do you handle it next time? So,
that's gold. Yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So I love that you've learned from your struggles. So, all right. Second question. How can a high-level athletic mindset be transferred to business success?
Yeah, cool question. Hey, so that is why I'm such a big fan of doing the inner work and really becoming aware of who you are, knowing yourself. Because here, if you know how you're creating success in any field, but let's say you're an athlete,
Mm-hmm.
and you know how you create a fulfilling sports career, if you're aware of how you're doing it, you can then take that and you can apply it in all areas of life. And also, and maybe even more beautifully, if you know how you did it, you can then take it and pass it on to other people because you know how you did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying being aware of it. And when I was swimming, I was never aware of anything about mindset, right? I had zero mindset training, and somehow I made it to the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not accrediting that all that like to my doing. It was just the environment that was favorable. I had the right coaches around me, and in a sense maybe I created it, but I wasn't aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when I transitioned into banking and I could not recreate the success from swimming, I fell into a victim role, and I started to blame other people because I didn't understand, because I was used to that. All of a sudden it didn't work, and so I just wasn't aware of what was happening, right? And so you have to be aware, and then it's easy to transfer, because the principles, being a good parent, being a good banker, being a good athlete, being a good speaker, they're almost the same.
Yeah, it makes me think, David, you bring up some really good points there, that you can have world-class ability, which you clearly had. You can be in the right environment. However, if you're not intentional about your actions and your mindset, at some point that's going to hold you back, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to hold you back. And you just look at how many athletes there are, and they're absolutely phenomenal at what they do, but they're just, everywhere else in life, they fuck it up. It's just because they're not aware. They had a favorable environment, good coaches, parents that were supportive and all that, but it's not coming like from, or maybe like they do have the desire, but they're, as I'm saying, they're not aware of how they're creating the success. And then that's why they can't transfer it to other areas of life. And I think that's a beautiful thing of sport, is it's such a cool way to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
And like these athletes, some of them literally have the opportunity to inspire a whole nation.
Yes.
I mean, right? It's just sport. And through sport, you can learn. Well, it's the same when you're going for a TED Talk, right? There's an opportunity to learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been a sports fan since my earliest memories. And I've thought about this because it's over 50 years. And why do I love sports so much? Number one, it's the unpredictability of it, the story, because when you're watching a live sporting event, just like with a good story, what's going to happen next? My favorite American football team, I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a long-suffering fan of the Cincinnati Bengals. Last week, they played a game against an underdog, a team that hasn't performed this year. They were leading by 11 points with 7 minutes to go, but I kept finding myself sitting forward like this because I'm thinking, I've seen them blow games like this before, and they did. Yeah. I knew the end of the story. It was so frustrating. But there's something about that. If you don't know the outcome, it's like a good story. What's going to happen? The American baseball, we just had the World Series concluded. The Atlanta Braves win the World Series. They really shouldn't have, based on their regular season record. But they had the mindset, even when they lost one of the top players in the sport back in the summer to a season-ending injury, they could have just said, all right, we're done. They had the right mindset. They became intentional, and every player knew his role.
That's right. And now take that, what you just said about the unpredictability, and that's how it's a possibility to see life like that. And as an adventure, every day is an adventure. And when has life ever worked out the way you imagined it? Never. It's always going to be different. There's always going to be some kind of fuck up, some kind of things that go better than you expect, some new people that come in and change the whole picture for you. You just got to be, well, that's it. That's the story. It's like, you don't know how it's going to end.
No, you don't. And that's what makes it exciting. Mm-hmm. And I also love individual achievements. When I was watching something not long ago about Bob Beamon in 1968, when he broke the long jump record. They knew he was good. He beat the record by 2 feet, which is, I don't know what the equivalent in swimming would be. What's the world record time in the 100 right now, 100 freestyle?
Like 46 seconds.
46 seconds. No, from what I understand, that would be like shaving 5 seconds off the 100-meter freestyle in one race. It's like those kinds of accomplishments are so rare, but when they happen, they're so exciting because they're unexpected. Yeah. And it shows that in many ways we don't have limits.
Yeah. There's also this the 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister, I forget what year it was, but nobody ever broke the mile, right? And then under 4 minutes, then he did it. And then after that, the year after that, there's like 30 people or something doing it, right? It's also just, again, what do we see as possible? Like Elon, what's the difference between me and Elon Musk? It's not like that he's much smarter than me. It's just he sees more possibility than I do. Let's be honest. Sure. Like if you tell me if we're going to go to Mars, I'm like, probably not. But he sees, well, somehow, and I think that's, yeah.
Well, I have some friends who are world-class speakers, and they talk about intentionality, being creative, innovative. And that's really all it is. If you think about how can one person, I'm thinking of Jeff Bezos, in less than 50 years become the wealthiest man on the planet. He has no more time than us. He got innovative. He got creative. We all have that same capability, but it's being intentional and it's managing those negative mindsets. He's got negative thoughts about himself like we all do. So he's learned to manage them. That's right. That's how we do. It has to become a habit, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's the same with Roger Federer. We talked about with Nadal. It's not that they don't get upset. They learn to handle it. That's what it is.
Yeah. The other thing I learned from a success coach in the United States named Darren Hardy is highly successful people do not enjoy getting up at 5 a.m. any more than you or I do. They don't enjoy going to the gym any more than I do. Just the way you as an Olympian didn't probably love getting up early every day, sacrificing, going to parties with your friends and all that in order to achieve the goal. But you did it because you saw the end results and it drove you.
That's right.
Fair statement.
Yeah, very fair statement. Except sometimes we went out, right? I mean, college life had to
get away with it.
Had to happen a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
You're not machines, right? You do have, and you.
But hey, there were people that were just never going out. I mean, there were some that were kind of enjoying life a little bit and doing both, and there were some that were so focused, right? But I think to each their own.
Yeah. But it does take a high level of commitment and sacrifice. You do not succeed accidentally.
No.
Yeah. So, all right. Third question for us is, what's the biggest misconception you see about creating a world-class mindset?
You know what? The biggest misconception is that I see is that a lot of people think this is a privilege for a few of us, and that it's really hard to acquire or whatever. I think that's what it is, because, but it's not true. It's available to all of us. It really is. It has nothing to do with school grades or whatever they told you, right? That you can't do it because you're not smart, because you got a few grades, and they like say, you're not smart. And also, it's not hard. It can be incredibly simple. It requires like some kind of discipline. You got to apply your will, but it's not hard. It's not hard. Right?
Yeah, the steps are simple, aren't they? It's the putting in the time and the effort and making the sacrifice that's hard.
Yeah, but even though you make the sacrifices, but then it's like you're going for what you love, right? Yeah. So you make a few sacrifices, things that you don't have to have right now, right? And then you go for what you love and you start creating what you love. And that's incredibly motivating, because you're going to get so much more out of what you're creating, so much more joy. And when you're helping others also, it's like, with what we do, helping other people, express themselves more, live life to the fuller, and so on. This is incredibly rewarding. Do I have to make some sacrifices? Yeah, I do, but I don't care, because this is so much more important. So yeah, we cannot have everything at once, But yeah, I mean, if somebody doesn't get that, I don't think it's a good conversation to have in the first
Well,
place.
that's true. And I love what you just said. And it makes me rethink. I'm using the wrong word. It's not sacrifice. It may on the surface look like a sacrifice, but to your point, David, if you're really in there doing something you love, maybe sacrifice is too strong. It's like, okay, that would be nice to do if I had time, but I'd rather do this thing right here. Like, I love studying storytelling and really diving in deep with folks. And I study it frequently, and I read books and I listen to videos and watch videos because I love it. So to me, it's not a big sacrifice to maybe give up watching one of the games to go do that, or to go have a beer when I don't even drink much anymore because it just puts me to sleep. So
Yeah.
it really is your perspective and saying, I want to help people in this arena so much that I'm willing to give up those other activities because this is my reward.
Yeah, exactly. And think about, like, I know of a guy, right, in tennis, and he was saying, well, I can't be like a professional tennis player, be on tour and have a girlfriend, right? Like, I wish, but that for him, it was like, it's a sacrifice. Like, I got to sacrifice having a girlfriend so I can play tennis. But that's just in his limited mind. Like, he thinks that because he's never experienced it any different. And then what happened to him, because he started to be open, he went on a tour and guess what? He met a female tennis player that was doing the tour as well. And that was even better.
Yeah.
So, like, sacrifice, I think, yeah, it's on the surface, as you say, but I do think it's like, it's not the right word, because often, 99.9% of the time, if you're going for what you love, you're going to create a situation that is so much better than you could ever could imagine, like right now, that it's just it's just a no-brainer, right, to go for what you love.
Yeah, they say sometimes life closes one door on you and you don't know why, but then there's a better door waiting for you.
There you go.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's just one thing with the relationships, a classic, right? If my girlfriend, say, breaks up with me and I'm super, super sad, but then a year later, 2 years later, 3 months later, I meet the woman that I love and I want to marry and want to have kids with, I'm like, thank you, right? I mean, it had to happen.
exactly. And that's a hard for a lot of folks when they're in the midst of that pain of the breakup, but they can't see that there's something better for them, which is true. Happens in jobs, happens with financial situations, sports. It happens all over the place. Well, David, I could talk to you for hours about this, but I know it's getting late over there. I know you probably want to start winding down for the day. Real quick, and let's make sure we got this here. All right. How can people get more information for you? Take a deeper dive. I know and I'm going to put the email address in your website underneath in the notes for this video, but anything that you want to point out to folks if they want to get in touch with you?
Hey, I think the easiest is always, I give the website. There's a training video. It's about spirituality, present moment, and so on. It's for athletes, and then I'm on social media. So if anybody would like to connect, I'm always open. And because everything, that everything starts, we connect like that starts with a conversation, and then see where it goes. Right?
It's real simple. We connected on LinkedIn. And we had one conversation and we hit it off. I'm like, hey, come on, you need to be interviewed. You just never know where it will take you. Well, and for our viewers, if you would like to take a quick look at your presentations, your stories, your speeches, well, this thing's not cooperating with me. I don't know why. I will put my link underneath. It's called infone.co. But you can schedule an appointment if you'd like to talk to me about any challenges you're having with your speeches or stories. There's the address. Again, I'll put it in the show notes. And before we go, just coming attractions coming to a live stream near you. Join me next week. I will be interviewing my friend Karen Buxman. You will like her, David. She is a neurohumorist. She is a Hall of Fame speaker. And she talks about incorporating humor into your life, making it part of your everyday work world, your daily life. And you talk about a positive mindset that's useful. It's all about humor. So join us next week for that. David Karasek, again, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some of your wisdom with our viewers today. And we will talk soon.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.